Welcome, everyone. My name is Morgan Kayak. I'm a managing director at NightDragon. We are here live in Las Vegas at Black Hat as part of the second part of a night vision series that we've been doing this year. The first one was at the beginning of the year where we talked about the state of cyber and had a full 360-degree view of the industry and the innovations taking place in our market. You can think about this as a little bit of a halftime show where we're checking in on what's been going on over the past 6 months. And it's been certainly an amazing 6 months with a lot of innovation taking place, as well as a huge wave we're seeing in terms of a major technology paradigm shift in AI. I'm really excited to have a special guest here with me, Heather Adkins, the Vice President of Security Engineering at a company that is on the forefront of AI, Google. Heather, thank you for joining us. We really appreciate it. We'd love to hear more about your role at Google and some of the things that you're working on there.
Well, thank you, and thank you for having me, and hello to everyone. So my role at Google is really all about protecting Google. And we have a lot of people who work in security all over the company. In fact, we believe in kind of the shift left mentality where more and more developers and business people are becoming security professionals in and of themselves. But my team is really focused on how do we keep the hackers out of Google itself so that all of our users and customers are protected. And I'm also really passionate about giving back to the industry by helping advocate for secure by default, safe by default, so that the solutions that billions of people get all over the planet are safe right out of the box.
Yeah, amazing. Yeah, that's a huge thing we're seeing in the cybersecurity industry around security processes and techniques getting more ingrained into the development process. Tell me more about the areas of cybersecurity that you're personally excited about at Google, some of the initiatives that you're running over there.
Well, for over a decade, we've really been on a path to building this kind of secure by default idea. You see it in some of our earliest work around security keys. This is for multi-factor authentication using hardware tokens. And we do this through an alliance in the industry called the FIDO Alliance. And it has all the big players participating with us at the table to really innovate authentication so that we can get rid of password phishing, account hijacking, and sort of all the ills around identity online. And we've been really passionate about that. We're also really passionate about zero trust architectures and sort of made that journey for ourselves over a decade ago so that every device plugged into the network, every data access is fully verified and trusted, and we know precisely who's behind the computer. We know whether you're a hacker or whether you're an employee. And we want to give that back, right? And I'm really passionate about seeing this through not only the journey for Google, but now helping companies make that transformation for themselves, and it does take some time.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Having spent a couple decades at Google, maybe you can comment on what we've been seeing in the industry over the past 6 months, right? We talked a little bit about AI and some of the things that we're seeing in terms of the disruption to the industry. How has AI impacted your view of where the industry is going?
It's really interesting because people ask me what's changed.
Yeah.
And absolutely nothing. That's the secret. Nothing's changed. The hackers are more or less using a lot of the same techniques. They're stealing the same kinds of data. What has changed is the scale. Whereas when I got in the industry, we would hear about things happening maybe once a year, twice a year. Now it's every morning you wake up in the headlines and, yep, another company breached. And I think the key to countering that is safe by default, but the key to that is also giving security teams automation. And so when I look at what we're calling the AI revolution or Gen AI revolution or LLMs, what we're really talking about is how to make the job easier for cybersecurity professionals and to give team defense a leg up against the bad guys. And this could be everything from how do we make logs analysis faster? How do we write incident reports faster? How do we make better decisions when we grant someone access to our systems? There's a whole range of just places where the humans need help gathering all the data to make a decision. That's perfect for generative AI. We're here at Black Hat. Jeff Moss this week has been talking a little bit about this, in that LLMs are probably not right to make full-on decisions, but they are right to be predictive about what information you're going to need in the moment to make that decision
Mm-hmm.
and to help you make that decision. And I think that's going to make the job of cybersecurity professionals like a little bit easier, hopefully.
Right, right. What advice would you give to CISOs out there that are thinking about the adoption of AI within their organization, as well as enabling AI applications for their organization to better serve their customers?
I would say two things. The first would be definitely keep up with the industry conversation.
Mm-hmm.
For example, Google has released what we call the SAFE framework, SAIF, that sort of outlines how we're thinking about this as a company. But sort of putting my enterprise CISO hat on, what I would say is you really should be thinking about where your data is coming from. So what kind of data are you training on?
Mm-hmm.
You know, you're going to probably be solving a particular business problem, make sure your training set is good. And you're going to want to know where your data is going. So I know a lot of CISOs, for example, who are making the decision, let's make sure that we're only prototyping and experimenting and productionizing in places where we can clearly understand whether or not the data is saved when when you enter the prompt, and whether or not, if it is saved, you know, is it saved with anyone else's data, right? Because you want to be able to, you know, we're all in a data privacy conversation industry-wide as well. And these are really important things, especially if you're working in a high-tech industry, you know, whether it's banking or the medical field, you know, high-tech like Google, is that you really want to make sure that you have control of that data.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that's a conversation I'm hearing among CISOs pretty consistently.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I mean, one of the unique things about our industry is not only do we have the ability to see and leverage AI for our own defenses, but we also need to think about how AI is getting leveraged by the adversary, by the offensive side. And so would love your perspective on how that develops within the offensive side of the ecosystem and what we should be thinking about as defenders in the space to make sure we're prepared.
There are some obvious things. I mean, people think, you know, a Bard or a ChatGPT, and they think, oh, I can write a really great phishing email. Right. And that's true, absolutely. And you can translate it easily into other languages. But actually, I'm a little more positive, I think, because attackers have been using automation for so long. Mm-hmm. And we also have kind of, you know, good examples of how it might be done. DARPA ran the Cyber Grand Challenge a number of years ago and did a big event, actually at DEF CON, showing that cyber reasoning systems can find vulnerabilities in software, patch them, and exploit them, all without human intervention. And they did this live on the DEF CON floor. It was quite a sight. So we can already imagine a little bit about how attackers might do this. But I actually feel really positive because I feel like as defenders, we're going to have even more choice and even more options. And being able to have automation means we can create dynamic battlefields also. And so the tools will be more at our fingertips than anyone else. So I'm going to vote for team defense on this.
No, I love it. You're ending it on a positive note for sure. So one last question for you. Outside of AI, what are the most interesting areas of cybersecurity that you're seeing out there?
Well, I mentioned security keys. I think we're on a path to the death of the password. That's really, I think,
thankfully.
The whole industry is behind this idea now. We can kind of see a little bit of glimpse of how we might do it. It might still be another 5 or 10 years as we innovate, experiment, roll out. But I think if we solve that, we could all retire feeling pretty good about ourselves.
Yeah.
But I'm also really excited about architectures. And, we have cloud now as, a first-class citizen in the architecture conversation. And the ability to containerize, the ability to devise really strong sandboxes, really strong perimeters and boundaries, and in very dynamic ways that are easy to understand and deploy quickly, I think, again, changes the battlefield. A far cry from where we set up mainframes and left them in place for 30, 40 years. And it's hard to secure an environment like that if you can't ever change it.
Right.
So I'm really excited about the possibilities for security that these cloud environments will create for us.
Yeah, Yeah, no, amazing. I think one of the things we're seeing at NightDragon is not only the impact of cloud and AI, but also how complex some of this infrastructure has become. And so it's creating an issue, but reducing complexity and security is always a good thing. So thank you, Heather. Really
Thank you.
appreciated the time here. And I personally learned a ton from the conversation, and I know our viewers did as well. So thank you for the time.
Thank you.
Yeah.